Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Brian here. How's everyone doing tonight? Making another 2024 election video. The Young Turks made this video. It's talking to Trump supporters on what would you do if he would lose again. So I wanted to make this video and pause it every so often and talk about my reactions, what the supporters are saying, and what the interviewers are asking. So let's get right into it. Let me get through this dumb ad.
Anything online. Don't spend another dime on
It's so
Amazon
stupid.
until you watch this.
If Trump were to lose for
Alright, once again, these are just my opinions.
if Trump were to lose for the second time, what would you think the reset would have to be for Republicans?
I would say things would get so bad it'll be almost in a communist type of zone to where we may not even be able to farm anymore. We may have to sell our land before, it's completely controlled with all the regulations. He got regulations.
Now, I will agree with this man to an extent. I do agree with him that if Biden does win re-election, I don't want Trump back in the White House, trust me, I'll get to that in a minute. But I do agree with this man that if Biden does win re-election, or someone like Gavin Newsom, or Kamala Harris, or Pete Buttigieg, or Elizabeth Warren, or any of them, liberal radicals, there is a good chance that it's going to be hard to farm in this country. They've made it so hard on farmers right now with regulations and taxes and stuff. New laws on it. So I can agree with him to an extent that if we continue down this road of having socialists and communists in the White House, or far left progressives, there is a good chance that farmers are no longer going to be a thing in this country, and that we could become a communist country. That's a very serious thing. Now, do I agree with him that Trump should be the one to replace Biden? Hell no. But I can't agree with him to the extent this is unfair to farmers. I have some family members down south that are farmers, and it's so hard. The farmers' tax is so hard on them, and it's just gotten so bad since Biden has become president. So I can agree with him to that extent that if Biden does win re-election, it's going to be very hard for farmers. You're going to see a lot of farmers stop farming because the regulations and stuff. It's going to be terrible. So I will agree with him on that. Not that Trump should be back in the White House, because Trump caused a lot of problems too, but I will agree with him on that.
Everything. I couldn't name one thing that's positive of Biden. And
Okay, I do agree with him to that extent, but I try to find the positives in everybody. I'll name two things: him putting us back in the Paris Climate Accord, I agree with that, and him pulling us out of Afghanistan. Those two things I can agree with. I can't find anything really good about it, but while I'm on here, I'll say some good things about Trump. Good thing about Trump is he tried to build a border wall to secure this country's border. I will praise him for that. That was a good deal. And another good thing, during the COVID pandemic, he allowed the federal government to allow funding to the vaccines. So those are two good things that he did in his presidency that I will commend and I will praise him for. Vast majority of things to disagree with Trump on, vast majority of things to disagree with Biden on and don't like. But I try to give credit where credit is due.
this is why we're in a mess. But I think one of the worst things, with agriculture and my business and everything else, when they opened up that border,
When you say they opened it up, what do you mean?
well, we had it shut down. Trump had it regulated, and he was screening them. And now we're going to have.
Now, the border wasn't perfect under Trump. Trust me, it was far from perfect. But compared to the mess that's at the border now, that border was the most secure border in the world. This farmer was very much right. Basically the border is just, it's basically walk right in. It's like a Planet Fitness, the Judgment Free Zone. Like it's just walking right in. And that's not the part that really bothers me, that anybody can just walk in. The part that bothers me is when you're coming in, you're being given automatically cars. Or if you can't drive, they give you bus tickets, bus passes for year. Or they're giving you monthly checks. They're giving you food stamps. They're giving you health care. They're giving you all these things, while you have tons of Americans and citizens of this country who can barely afford to pay their rent, their mortgage, their power bill, their cable bill, their health insurance. They can barely afford that, or they're severely in debt because student loans and stuff. But they can give this money to people that aren't even citizens of this country yet. Not saying I have the belief that anybody in the world, whether you're from Mexico, Canada, whether you're from a free country, a dictator country, whatever, if you're coming to this country for freedom, to live in happiness, to live in a different place, to try to make yourself successful, I think the United States should welcome you 110%. But I don't think that if you're coming to this country to bring drugs here, or you're coming to this country to do harm, or you're coming to this country illegally, or you're coming to this country just to be a bum, I don't think that we should welcome you to this country. I'm sorry. I just don't think that we should. Now, if you're coming to this country to work hard, because there's a lot of immigrants that come here just to get work, because in their countries they can't find work, or just to get by, because their countries are so expensive to live in, or just because they want to have freedom, you're welcome to come, but you got to do it legally. If you're not going to do it legally, you go back to where you came from. But if you're going to come here and do it legally, and you're not going to come here to do harm, by all means, you're welcome if I was president. I'm just saying that.
Bad stuff go on. They're infiltrating the country, feeding everybody for free. You see, can't afford it. Can't afford it.
See, you just said that, yeah. You know, they're feeding all these immigrants and stuff. They're giving them monthly checks, and they're giving them health care, and they're giving them food stamps and stuff, and housing, and transportation, while you have tons of people struggling. I mean, this country is over $34 trillion in debt, yet we're doing that. Something that makes me question it severely.
Like he says, they got to come in legally, not illegally. You get in illegally, you know, you're going to have a mess, and I'm afraid it could be, this is why we have so much crime, and I can see where things could get bad down the road. If we don't get Trump back this next time, it's really going to get bad.
If he were to lose again, what would you think the Republican Party has to do to reset?
Oh boy, that's a big one.
A lot of people that are better than Trump, just putting that out there, that are better than Trump and Biden, just putting that out there. Not saying Biden is, but there's a lot of people, Bobby Kennedy, Jacob Hornberger, Mark Cuban, that could really do the job properly.
I don't know what they can do. Really, truly, they need to get rid of Democrat, Republican people. I don't care who you talk to. If they're Democrat, they won't listen to you.
If he were to lose...
Okay, that man is about 99% right. I will 100% agree with Trump supporters and conservatives and Republicans on this forever. If you say one bad thing about the Democrats, or you try to challenge them to a debate, whatever, not saying all Democrats do this, but about 90%, especially the progressives and the woke Democrats, they will refuse to talk to you. If you say one bad thing, say, oh, I disagree with the way Biden has handled the border crisis, or I disagree with the way he said about Ukraine, whatever, you are automatically called a racist, a bigot, a fascist. You're called anti-democracy. You're told you hate the middle class. You're called anti-Semitic. You're called a sexist. You're called a bigot. You're called all different types of names. A Trump supporter, which I'm far from a Trump supporter. You're called a Trump supporter. You're called a Nazi. You're told that you hate old people, or you just hate poor people, or you just don't care about other people. You're called self-observant. All these different names, simply because you said, oh, I disagree with that. And when you try to challenge Democrats on it, like, oh, why do you support funding to Ukraine? They will not debate with you. Now, there's some Democrats that are in office and stuff that will very much go to a debate. You know, Gavin Newsom, I disagree with him strongly. I would never vote for him for president or any office, or want him anywhere near the presidency. But I will commend him that at least he has the balls to debate. Most Democrats would never do that. So I will agree with that man to the extent of they're terrible with it. Now, there are some Republicans that try to silence people, but it is the liberals and the Democrats are much worse with it.
Lose a presidential election for the second time, how would that affect you?
I would feel that the media manipulated it again. It's kind of hard to put into words the way I feel.
Okay, now this guy is right to an extent as well. The media does manipulate a lot of things, not just with Republicans. It's mainly with Republicans, but yes, I will agree that last time which the COVID, don't get me wrong, the COVID pandemic was very serious. I had a family member, I lost one of my cousins, my great cousins, I guess I should say, like my grandmother's cousin, lost her, and I had COVID and got sick. So COVID was a serious thing, but CNN, MSNBC, they really did hype up the pandemic to be a lot, like, it was a dangerous thing. Definitely, it was a serious thing. But they were making it seem so much more serious. I mean, you had a guy, I forget the one guy's name, Don Lemon, predict that it was going to kill 90% of the population in the United States, and the 10% that survives are going to be in critical condition afterwards, have serious health issues. That type of stuff, they had the numbers right there. All that stuff, that did manipulate a lot of people to go and vote for Biden over Trump. And I will agree with them on that. That was manipulation right there. That's propaganda spreading. And just like what they're doing with Bobby Kennedy right now. I mean, they're basically ignoring him. But then when they do talk about him, they say, oh, he's an anti-vaxxer, he's a conspiracy theorist. They're calling him names. Like, that man is 100% right. the media very much tries to manipulate elections, and I don't think they manipulated the election in 2020. I think they manipulated some of it, by spreading some misinformation. I think at the end of the day, why Donald Trump lost is because Donald Trump failed as a president, as a candidate. But I do think the media did have a little bit of a piece in it of, spreading some lies and saying things that weren't exactly true, or saying things that were true but over exaggerating them or adding things to them. I'll agree with this guy that the media did. The media was about a quarter of why Donald Trump lost last time. The other 75% and was 50% being that he was a terrible president and 25% that he ran a bad campaign. But yeah, the media was about a quarter of the reason why he lost. But yeah, they have manipulated elections, and then they try to. I will 100% agree with him on that.
About what's going on in today, without getting overly emotional about it. The fact that we're trying to, what's the word? That we're trying to blackball somebody that is clearly the front runner when it comes to this next.
Is he though? In the Republican field, he is, but he's not beating RFK Jr. in any polls. I mean, if you throw RFK Jr. in the polls, RFK Jr. 9 times out of 10 has more support than him. So is he really the front runner? I'd ask that support that. Do you really believe he's the front runner in the Republican primary by far? But in the general election, do you really think he's the front runner?
Next election is insulting. You have to dig so deep, especially when it comes to the media and YouTube and things like that. You have to dig so deep to find the truth. And then once the truth comes out, you're like, well, I wasted all this other time when it could have just come out in honest journalism.
Where do you get your news from generally?
Generally, I go to independent sources, Steven Crowder. I like that Steven Crowder has a web page that you can fact check everything that he says. I dabble in a little bit here and there. I kind of do my due diligence. I know your network, and there's agreements and disagreements in every media. I go where it's truest, in my opinion.
What will you do if former President Trump were to lose again?
Well, depending on how honest of an election it looked like it was, if it was honest and run correctly, I would accept it. If it wasn't, I would not accept it.
You see, the question of what is a fairly election to her? Now I can understand, like, if you see, like, where there was voting errors in a state, or something happened, or something like that, or maybe he won the popular vote, like, maybe argue that. I could see that. But I'm not understanding what her definition of a fair election is. It's only going to be a fair election if Donald Trump says it's a fair election. Like last time, it was a very fair election. It was actually one of the most successful elections we ever had, with voting turnout and with success and stuff. And there's a lot of Republicans and even some independents that believe that it wasn't a fair election because Trump has told them this big lie that is simply not true. I mean, there was over 60 court hearings, federal court hearings, and hundreds of state court hearings, and every single judge ruled that there was no voter fraud and there was no interference and anything like that. The fact that in Pennsylvania it went all the way up to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, which is a majority of which is the majority on it is Republicans, they all ruled. There's 10 on the court. All 10 ruled that there was no voter fraud, and there was no errors. And the Vice President said it, the Attorney General said it, something Donald Trump said that wasn't fair. So my definition to her is, if it's not fair. Now listen, if there is proven voter fraud, I'd be with this lady and Donald Trump all the way fighting. They say this is wrong, but there's just no proof. It's the same thing in the 2016 election. They said it was an unfair election. It was interference. There was no there was no Russian interference in the 2016 election, and there was no voter fraud in the 2020 election. So I would like to know this lady's definition on a fair election.
Okay, thanks so much.
Then maybe we'll have to make him king.
Would we want to go back to a monarchy?
That's horrible.
You don't know what's going to happen.
Would you be, if they decided to go back to a monarchy and make Donald Trump the king, would you be okay with that?
I would do that versus what we're at now.
Yeah.
With the system being manipulated.
Oh my, you see, that's just horrible. That honestly wants to bring me to tears. That is just horrible. The fact that somebody would say, maybe make him a king. Alright, if you're kidding around, oh well, you really like him. People that said about Reagan, oh, he should become a king. Like, just kidding. Like, kidding around or being sarcastic. Alright, it's fine. But to actually believe that, you think he should be a king? It's bad. You know, listen, I understand the woman that the system right now sucks, you know. The economy is the worst it's ever been in all U.S. history. Inflation is the highest it's ever been in all U.S. history. Taxes are the highest they've been in all U.S. history. We have the lowest wages in over 80 years. You know, we're disrespected around the world. We're deeply divided. I mean, there's so many people unemployed, so many people that don't have health care. The border's not secure. It looks like a shitty system. It really does. But I'd rather live, in all honesty, I'd rather live in the shittiest country in the world. I'd rather pay the highest taxes, have the lowest wage, get treated like crap, shittiest in the world, most unsecure border, but have freedom, have the right to say what I want, have the right to wear what I want, have the right to go out and, you know, march, whatever. In a monarchy country, that's not going to happen. Now listen, I know a lot of people say, oh, Donald Trump, oh, defend your guns and stuff. Mark my words, if he were to ever become a king, which God, I will hope and pray that that never happens. I don't think it will happen. But if he were ever to become a king or a dictator or a chief general, whatever you want to call it, you think that you have a right to own a gun? No. Oh, he's going to send the military, even to his own supporters' house. He's going to take all your rights away. The right to own a gun's gone. Your right to protest is gone. Freedom of speech is gone. And they're going to decide, they can even decide what you want to wear. Listen, the president's going to have total control over everything. There's not going to be no more debates, nothing. He's going to have total control. Then when he dies, it's going to be one of his family members or close friends. And that's not a country that I want to live in. You know, if America, if we all want to live in that type of country, we just go move to, well, let's move to Russia. You know, they think they have elections, but they're rigged. It's one person. Or let's move to Uganda. Or let's move to, North Korea. I'm sorry, I apologize. I think Uganda is a free country now. I said that once before. I got confused. But, you know, why don't we all just start moving to North Korea? You know, if this is what majority of America wants, let's just move to North Korea. You know, North Korea, it's a monarchy, not a monarchy, but it's one person in control. Why don't we just move there? Seriously, or move to some other dictator country. Why should we live here? You know, it's scary that someone would say that. Listen, people, I understand. The system sucks. It does. This country has become one of the worst countries to live in the world. But voting for Donald Trump, alright, you know, he's a presidential candidate, voting for him. But to say that he should be a king or a dictator or a general or something, that's terrifying. Now listen, the greatness of our country is we don't have one person in control. We have freedom. We get to decide the people that write the rules and laws in this country. We do. We get to decide that, and people who are going to be in charge of stuff. We get to decide that. There's so many countries in the world where they don't get to do that. And the fact that they're going to do that someone would say that, it's scary. You know, it's like the Republicans want a king and the Democrats want a communist. I mean, it's just terrifying. You know, I don't believe all the Republicans want this, but this woman is in that 3 to 10% of the Republican Party that has corrupted itself to the point of where Donald Trump is the hero. He's the savior. He's the next Jesus Christ. Like that's what they have painted him to be. People, he's not your hero. He's the reason no one should be a king. Like, listen, I love Jesse Ventura. Jesse Ventura, I think, is the greatest governor in U.S. history. I think he's amazing. Has amazing views. I think he'd be a fantastic president. But I don't ever want Jesse Ventura to be king. If Jesse Ventura is going out to try to be a dictator or a king, I'm not voting for him. I have no respect for him then. I agree with his policies, but I have no respect for him. Same thing with Bobby Kennedy. There is no respect for fascism. We are a free country. We cannot let... Please, people, don't let Donald Trump fool you, because if they're wrong, he's going to try to do... I don't believe this will ever happen, because I think that Congress would ultimately impeach and remove him, and I think the citizens in the military would never allow this to happen. But it's scary that someone would even believe that. There's people that actually believe that he should be a dictator and a king. It's terrifying. Alright, everyone, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like this video. Please share this video. Please leave a comment on the channel. And please subscribe for more. Bye, everybody.